he didn't have his phone, so he was counting on his memory to just get my number and go maybe save it on his phone later. So I was almost sure he wasn't going to remember. I had told my friend about someone new that I had met in Naivasha, and I was going to meet him. So she was like, oh, just be careful. There are these people who are coming from Tanzania, and they are organ harvesters.
I see exactly why things transpired the way they did, because of what she thought. And I'm glad I picked Yaya Center as opposed to, I don't know, some shady location.
It's very important for couples to just get out of the house.
Some of the things that we enjoy doing together, apart from our domestic responsibility, include, I think we like the outdoors quite a bit. So we try to go on hiking trips. We take nature walks.
I think it makes you grow fonder of each other.
We talked about the Russia experience and how that was I think it was quite exciting, at least for me, to be able to go through the process. Apparently, we're not done yet. It goes on until you know, until forever. And now, so for our wedding, we had a wedding actually right in the middle of COVID. That was, I think, it was in December 16th, 2020. The planning was started maybe a couple of years earlier, because we had to save and make sure that we really do the wedding that we want to do, and then of course COVID came, so we had to figure out how do you do a wedding during COVID, and then the guidelines for holding public events were changing almost on a monthly basis at that time, but I think for the grace of God we managed to actually hack it and do it right in the middle of the pandemic.
The wedding went mostly how I expected it, but if I was to change a few things, then I would hope to invite more people, because of the limitations of COVID, then we had to really constrict the number of people that were invited, because they had a lot of guidelines. And yeah, if I was to redo it, I would definitely invite a bit more people, but mostly it was the wedding of my dreams, the wedding that I potentially had imagined since I was a young girl. I would say, yeah, it met my expectations in that sense. From Tanzania, most people managed to come because, like we had said before, they are big on events. So if we were to slash, then we slashed the Kenyan people. So, but most Tanzanians, the people who we wanted to come, most of them managed to come. But the people from Kenya, they're the ones that we had to really slash so that we could meet the COVID guidelines.
Yeah, because
and it was a big experience for them, and like we had said before, the cultural differences. So the Tanzanians, their weddings, they are a bit different from how we do it in here. So I'm sure it was a good experience for them to also experience a Kenyan wedding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for us, regarding the invitees, obviously there were guidelines of how many people you can have in the wedding, right? So you could only have that many. So we really had to struggle to figure, okay, who do you invite, who do you not invite? So it ended up being, and then of course balancing the cultural expectations as well, because for Tanzanians, a wedding is a big deal. Like everybody would want to come. They would bring like presents and gifts to everybody for the other side. So it's really a very important event for them. So now the balance was, okay, given that and that expectations, on top of the limitations by the government, then who do you invite, who do you not invite? So then it ended up being, we just have to focus on family more so than maybe friends, and maybe cut off on friends and just accommodate all the family, and then maybe slash a lot more on friends. But at the same time, you want your friends who are part of your social existence to be part of your celebration. So I think it was very tricky for us to be able to sort of balance that out. So she's absolutely correct. I think we wish we had a lot more people and a lot more friends to come to take part. That was one thing. And then the second element is we struggle to get the typical, I guess, weekend date, because I think most of these, wedding venues had, were booked, or the booking were not as, I guess, as easy as we'd expect. So we could not get the weekend on a Saturday at the venue that we liked. Luckily, the two of us actually did the actual scouting of the venues. I think we went through every single potential wedding venue in Nairobi, two of us, and then decide. And honestly, for some reason, we liked exactly the same things, right? So the one that we agreed on, this is perfect for both of us. Now getting the actual date on the weekend was just impossible. So the option was, okay, you either postpone until much later, or we just have to put it in the middle of the week, right? So we end up doing our wedding on a Wednesday. Yeah, doing on a Wednesday. And of course, that now becomes a bit of a challenge for people who want to come to the wedding, but they also have to go to work during the day. Yeah, but at the end, I'm glad that it was the wedding of her dreams, because that's definitely a good thing to have for your bride. Yeah.
Before I got married, I was living alone. So now, fast forward past the wedding, then you have to incorporate someone essentially in your life. Every decision that you make, you have to have this person in your mind, people, including children, in your mind. It's a big change, I think. It's a big change, stepping from being able to make decisions if you want to just get out of the house and go somewhere or do something, and then now everything you do, you have to have someone in your mind. But it has been manageable because he's an easy person, so it makes my work a bit easy in terms of managing living with people. The main adjustment I had to make is, I would say, decisions that I make that are just about me. For example, I would just get up, go to my parents' house, stay there for a week, or just get up, go visit my friends, just those random decisions that I would make. And then now there's someone else. So if I'm deciding to go somewhere, then I think I need to consider another person in my life, not like how I would. So decision making that would essentially involve just me was one of the big things that changed in my life. The difference between now and then with my team of girls is, so I got married before most of my team of girls. Actually, I think I was the first one to get married. Yeah, so before them. So then it's almost breaking up, if you would call it that, from them. Not to spend time with them all the time, because we were almost together all the time. So then getting married, it means then you have to have time to spend time with them and with him. And I think when you get married, you spend time more with your spouse more than with your friends. So it was also a big change for me, because them they continued with the team, with the life that we used to live then, and me, I'm here, I'm married, and I need now to change my life to accommodate him and accommodate the children that came in later. So it's sort of a breakup somehow with them.
I think the transition from living alone to living with a wife, some elements were similar, I think, to what she went through. But I feel like for me, maybe it was slightly easier, right? Because now I am essentially getting, someone who is extremely capable to essentially manage my life, really, right? Because I think at least in the Kenyan or the African tradition, I think the person who runs the house is the wife, right? And that just removes all responsibility from my plate. Say, hey, someone will do this. So in a way, it's actually, to me, it was a welcome change, to be honest. And on three fronts. So number one, I got a proper home with someone who actually takes care of it and make all the decisions, which was very, very easy for me, right? And then second, I think it just made me, I think, a lot more grounded in what I do. in the decision making process, in who I engage with, the friends that I continue or discontinue, and even having that future perspective in life. Because when you're alone, really it's only you and your little man cave. Once you eat and you're well fed and you have your job, it pretty much ends there. And maybe some family members that you can help, but I think with the family, you're not thinking, okay, this is beyond me. Is the future? Is what's going to happen in the future? So I think being grounded was a huge advantage, I think, to me. Starting living with her, and of course, her taking care of the rest of my life was also a welcome experience as well. So I can't complain at all.
The cultural difference was not an issue for him because he had lived, in terms of food, because he had lived in Kenya for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before we met, before we started living together. But every time the family visits, then I feel the need to maybe change a bit into the Tanzanian cuisine, because Tanzanians, they are big on cooking. They would cook breakfast, like a whole buffet of breakfast, daily, lunch, dinner. So it only changes a bit when the family visit, and I think we've done it so many times. It has almost become now part of our family. What we eat, it is not what I used to eat when I was living alone, and it's also not what my family eats at home. So we've established our own cuisine that we work with now. It's a mix of Kenyan and Tanzanian cuisine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so back. I may just make a small comment on the food part. I know it's probably a bit unfair on the women's side, right? Because if you're coming from living alone, you can just, I don't know, throw some pastas and noodles in 2 seconds, and you just eat and you're done, basically, right? So a guy can do the same thing when he's living alone, but then when you come together, then the person who bears the most of the cooking responsibility now has to essentially change the entire menu, because now you're feeding not just yourself, you're feeding another person. And then on top of that, if you expect this person who comes from a different culture where maybe they're used to having these big buffets, then it's even an additional pressure on being able to sort of like you just manage the food aspect of things, right? But I think we're at a point where there's I think she did it pretty well. I mean, let me give her credit where credit is due. I think you did very well to just ensure that the transition is smooth for both of us, even though you did a lot of work just getting there. I'm sure if it was a Kenyan, it would have been easier to handle than me. But it was a good experience from both sides. Yeah.
Of course, every marriage has issues, finance, communication. We didn't discuss those before, and by the time we were almost getting to our wedding, we felt that it was good that we see a marriage counselor, and she walked us through a lot of those aspects. So then, looking back, we didn't know quite a lot. There's a lot that we did not know, and we thought that we knew. So she walked us through the journey of how to handle different things differently than what we thought was okay for us to handle. And I believe it was a very good decision for us to engage a counselor, because then it has made a lot of those things very easy: the finance, the communication, how we run a home, essentially.
So the way we handled the different aspects of marriage, such as finance and others, I think to some extent it was more a result of the need arising at the time, and then being open to figure out how do we discuss this, for instance. So I can give an example. So on the finance side, for instance, right? So I had a job while she was sort of like finishing her postgraduate internship and other activities, right? So when you get to a point where she was like, okay, now I want to be able to, as a family, how do we now manage your finances? Then you have to say, hey, how do we handle taking care of family expenses, right? So I think those elements as they came, we're able to come together and figure out how do how do we handle them as they arose. Yeah.
When the relationship was new, I don't think we were communicating properly, to be honest. It's something that we have developed over time. So and then we have very different personalities. So his personality would be not to communicate things immediately and urgently. There's no sense of urgency in terms of communication. And from my personality, there's a lot of urgency. So if I see something now, I want to communicate it now. So then, based on our different personalities, in the beginning we had a bit of issues with how we communicated, because I want to communicate right now, he wants to delay, or he doesn't think it's important for us to talk about a certain issue, or maybe so. Then it has been a journey that we have walked through, and from where we started, I believe right now we're at a good place. It has been a journey, but I believe right now we're at a good place. We've understood each other's personality, and I think right now, if I don't need to put urgency to everything, and also he doesn't need to delay everything. So we're at a good midpoint right now, if I may say.
I think our communication has definitely improved. And that was probably a result of us going through a lot of, I guess, communication challenges at the very beginning, because I realized, I think, during the time where we are trying to get together and start living together, putting a family together, we didn't quite know that we are two different people when it comes to our communication styles, right? And so some of the elements which we could have probably found a solution much quicker, it took us quite a while. And of course that included a lot of friction and challenges, right? And mini fights, to be honest, right? But I'm glad that we, I think at the end of the day, we both knew what we were trying to do, so that did not become more of an issue. But I think visiting a marriage professional who walk us through really the A to Z of how do you run a family, what are the different key elements in the communication is one of them. So they're able to actually identify what our styles are and how do we communicate and how do we make sure that is really the core of everything that we do together. But I think, as she said, we got so much better, I think, in that particular aspect, because it runs all the other elements, I think, of a marriage. If there's one most important thing is communication, because communication now brings in transparency, it brings in emotional expression, because through communication you share what you feel, you share what you want, you share what you hear, and all the other elements, I think, are really based on being able to openly communicate. Yeah. When it comes to finances and how I think family should handle, for us, I think our belief is, I think openness is probably the best way to go about it. And likely we had a chance to be able to actually discuss this at the very beginning, and jointly agree as how do we manage that. And for us, I think the conversation was just based on, okay, so we're trying to put together a family. What are the elements from a financial perspective which need to be considered? So we say, okay, let's just first of all take stock of what our demands or our financial needs are. So of course you want to pay daily bills and everything else, savings, projects and plans. So it's okay, let's first of all describe what do we need to do as a family, right? And then the second question was, okay, how do we sort of fund those activities, right? So then having that conversation, we clearly say, you know what, why we just we'll share in the running of the family through just like a joint accounts, where we both of us can sort of pull in the funds, and those funds will go towards some of those activities. So our approach is to say, we pull all our resources together, and then those resources will go through running our family. Yeah.
So based on the chores that we have in the house, we definitely need to bring in someone to help us with them, and this is because we both, most of the time we are engaged with our jobs during the day, but that is not to say that we don't chip in where we are supposed to. Like, we enjoy cooking, so sometimes we just put in and cook, and then the other person would be taking care of the kids or cleaning. So we definitely need someone to come and help us with the chores, and that's what we've done since we started living together.
In terms of her education plans, if she considers, continuing education, I think I'll fully support that, to be honest, right? And the reason why I'll do that is because, number one, I mean, her advancing her career or her education is just beneficial to the family at the end of the day, if you think about it. So I'll definitely fully support that. I mean, now we have 2 kids, and they're still young. And she's still very, very young, luckily, so she can study, many years to come. She will still be able to go back to school. But I think I fully support, personal and professional development in any way that I can, and that's really possible if you think about it, because if you're able to create a mechanism where her responsibilities are being removed from the house, you can either pick up or get additional help. If that can be accommodated, then I don't see any reason why someone wouldn't want to be able to support that. So I would fully support that, for sure.
With the coming of the kids, first of all, they bring a bit of cohesion, because they make you do things together, and then plan better. So if you have kids, then you'd have a common goal, maybe the going to school, getting help for the kids, just planning for their future. So they bring you to get together in terms of planning, number one, planning, and also in terms of doing things together. So you'd have the kids, you take them somewhere, you go for holidays together, you spend time together. So they in a way enhance the family and make it more cohesive, more together. They bring a lot of togetherness in the family.
When it comes to planning for children, so on top of what you just mentioned, there are definitely a lot of things that you need to think through, right? I mean, they don't come naturally at the beginning, because you sort of like, you don't quite foresee every single element of running a family with children until you have the first one. Then you're like, oh my goodness, I have to make sure I think of this. So when we had our first son, we probably were just like trying to feel around the darkness to figure how this is going to work. But then with our second, then I think there's a lot more of that planning, thinking through, okay, he's this age now. When he gets to 2, what's going to happen? What kind of support we need? What kind of school should we start considering? How should we interact with him so that he can develop, as a child properly? So I think those things you'll do much better with your second child than the first one. But I think for the first one, we a lot of just like learning as you go along. I think we did quite a bit of that, and definitely I think the children do bring a sense of unity. I think a sense of unity among couples, because it gives you that additional element of being able to say, hey, we are responsible for this little human, that whatever becomes of him is between the two of us. So I think that sense of responsibility really makes you put your best foot forward to do. Some of the things that we enjoy doing together, apart from our domestic responsibility, include, I think we like the outdoors quite a bit. So we try to go on hiking trips. We take nature walks. We're also big fans of travel. So just random road trips to a random location, just for a weekend. We interact with our common friends quite a bit, and then sometimes just hanging out. We used to go to like IMAX movies before they closed the big IMAX theater. So a lot of those things we love doing together.
It's very important for couples to just get out of the house and interact. I think it makes you grow fonder of each other and accomplish things, and also it also brings a lot of union, a lot of it rekindles the things that the love that you had for each other, because it's very easy for you to get lost, especially when you have all these responsibilities, children and all other things coming into play. So it's very easy for you to get lost and forget that you're a couple before your parents, before your everything else. So all these road trips, anything that couples like to do together, it's very important to keep the fire burning.
In terms of advice, I would give to couples, either in a relationship or those who are thinking of getting a relationship. I'll probably give them three pieces of advice. I think number one is you need to understand that going into a relationship, there are some compromises that need to be made. I think it's very difficult for anyone to get, no marriage is perfect in itself. I think you make it perfect when you're there. I don't think that perfect partner is out there. It's your job to make that perfect union. That's number one. And then number two, I think you truly need to believe in what you're trying to put together. Because if you do believe in that, that means that you're going to be able to put all your effort and passion, resources in make sure that it actually works. And marriage does have a lot of benefits if you make it work. And then number three, I think transparency, communication, and trust. I think those are very, very, very key. I think we invest a lot in our other aspects of life, like careers and family, but you don't think that your family is the most fundamental investment of your life. So really you have to put all your resources in there. So the trust has to be there. Transparency and good communication are absolutely key. And then last but not least, I think you need to be able to have as much flexibility as possible, because you really don't know what the future holds. So being able to just be open, agree to be challenged, agree to be questioned, but believe in what you're trying to put together. I think if you can do those 3 or 4 things, I think you're set for a pretty good and successful marriage.
My advice to couples, people who are planning to get married, people who are married, and people who aspire to have perfect marriages is, first of all, marriage works. And it's the responsibility of each of the partners to make it work. So you have to invest in your marriage. You have to understand the person who you're married to. You have to understand that you're 2 different people coming together for a good cause and for one cause. And not to forget yourself into all the other things that come with marriage. Before your marriage, you're an independent person, and you need to keep that alive. And you also need to identify the things that make you happy, you and your partner, and to make sure that you grow and work on that. And also, there are mistakes that happen in marriage. There are also things that can go wrong. You identify ways that which you can help. You can just make sure that those things don't go wrong, or work on whatever can go wrong. And it's also good to seek advice where you think advice is needed.
I love you very much. I think I can't think of anyone else that I could have walked this journey with, and I truly mean that. I think every day that we will continue to live in our life, I get more and more confirmation that I think God promised that you should have been the one that I should really make my life with. So thank you very much for keeping up with all the crazy that I have, but I can promise that I continue to be better as we build our little family to become the best family we can ever put together.
First of all, I love you, and I'm so happy that you're in my life, and I thank God every day for you. You're the perfect person that I believe God chose for me. Every time, ever since I was a young girl, I envisioned my life to be how it is right now, and I'm so grateful to God that you're the one He brought into my life. Thank you for being an amazing husband. Thank you for being an amazing father. We don't take it for granted, and we trust that as time goes by, we're just going to make it even better for us and for our family.